पृथिवी शान्तिरन्तरिक्षगं शान्तिर्द्यौः शान्तिर्दिशः शान्तिरवान्तर दिशा शान्तिरग्निः शान्तिर्वायुः शान्तिरादित्यः शान्तिश्चन्द्रमा शान्तिर्नक्षत्राणि शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिर्वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्गौः शान्तिरजा शान्तिरश्वः शान्तिः पुरुषः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिर्ब्राह्मणः शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः शान्तिर्मे Astu Shantihi. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees and in animals. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra Sukhinas Santu Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Sarvastaratu Durgani Sarvo Bhadrani Pashyatu Sarvas Sadbuddhimapnotu Sarvas Sarvatra Nandato. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good, and may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our own hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayedhi Rudrayatte Dakshinam Mukham Te Namam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. So begin today on verse number 7. So we have seen up to this point the conversation that occurred between Nachiketa and his father. And now we are at the point in the story where, urged by his son to hold on to his words, that his words may not be falsified, even though he may have said it in anger, that I give you to death, to take those words seriously, not dismiss them. So his father then accordingly sends him to the abode of Yama. Now it so happens that when Nachiketa reaches Yama's home, Yama is away, on some tour somewhere. And so since the head of the family is not at home, he waits. And Yama returns after 3 days. And so 3 days, Nachiketa waits outside, just waiting. No food, nothing. He's just waiting there for Yama to come. And when Yama returns, this is what his wife or his servants, it's not clear from the verse who is exactly telling him that, but this is what they tell him. That's verse number 7. Vaishvanarah pravishati atitihi brahmano grahan tasyaitam shantim kurvanti haravaivasvatodakam. As fire, a Brahmana guest enters the house, they, that is good householders, greet him with this peace offering. So, O Vaivasvata, bring water. Vaishvanara is the word used. Vaishvanara is a kind of fire. The word Brahmana is used in at least two different ways. And I don't want to go into this whole big discussion about the caste system. But the word Brahmana, here from this text itself, it's not simply clear whether it is someone necessarily born in a Brahmin family, but that's how generally it has been understood, that someone born in a family automatically inherit the caste of their parents. But Brahmana in Sanskrit does not simply refer to that. In Sanskrit, Brahmana can also mean someone who has the qualities that are identified with being a Brahmin. So one may not be born in a Brahmin family, but one who has the qualities that are associated with Brahminhood, then that person also can be called Brahmana in Sanskrit. So we can either translate it as a Brahmana guest, or we can also translate it as a holy person, someone who is a good, ethical person. Now, in the Vedic period, the guest was always considered but well, let me put it this way. The guests were always welcome, and even unknown guests who came without sending any information before. So those people who, and sometimes we all have experienced it at home, sometime known, usually people whom you know or people whom you have probably not met for a long time suddenly show up at your doorstep. And most of us, most of the time, are very polite when we welcome them, but inwardly we're like, oh, these people could have informed earlier. So sometimes it may not be a very convenient time when the guests show up unannounced. So the guest who shows up unannounced, the word that is used in Sanskrit is atithihi, and that's the word you find here, atithi. Tithi means a specific day. Atithi means one who has come without any appointment. There is a long-standing tradition coming down from the Vedic period in the Indian subcontinent was that through an insight that comes in the Vedas, that after having created the world, God entered into every tiny little bit of it. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a passage which says, Tat srishtva tadeva anupravishata. Tat srishtva, having projected this universe, tadeva anupravishata, the infinite being, the supreme being, entered into every tiny bit of it. And that's what we often refer to when we say God is all-pervading, God is omnipresent. If that is true, then just as God is present in my heart, God is present in the heart of everyone. God can take any number of forms. And so that is why it is said, an unannounced guest in your home, even someone you don't know, may be the divine being come to test you. And there are many stories in the Indian mythology and history where someone who kind of looks human but may be divine. There's one incident that I could quickly mention. This occurred in the life of Ramakrishna's mother. So Ramakrishna was the youngest child, and so he had gone to Calcutta along with his eldest brother, and which is where he was doing worship in the Kali temple. His elder brother, the middle son, his name was Rameshwar. And so it so happened that one day, and this Rameshwar, they were the hereditary profession, if you like, was a priestly function. So children were priests. So this elder brother of Ramakrishna had gone to a nearby village to do some puja somewhere. And he was supposed to have returned by the evening, and he still hadn't returned. So his mother, that is Ramakrishna's mother, her name was Chandramani, she was very worried. So she was waiting outside her home, worried why her son had not returned. It was getting dark. Just then, a 9 or 10-year-old girl, very beautiful, with all jewelry, she suddenly shows up and asks Chandramani, "Could I please stay at your place tonight?" And the mother is so worried that her son hasn't come. And so her mind is filled with that anxiety. She has no time for this total stranger out of the blue coming and asking her whether I could stay at your place. And so she says, no. I can't think about it. I can't deal with you right now. And so the girl smiles and says, okay. And then she goes, and their neighbors were a family called Lahas. Their last name was Laha. So then the little girl knocks on their door, and they welcome her, and she goes in there. And after waiting for some more time, finally her son returns. This Rameshwar returns. And the mother is very relieved she's there. And then late at night, after they had their dinner, Chandramani tells her son, while I was waiting for you, suddenly out of the blue, one little girl came. I've never seen her anywhere. And she described, she was very, very, very young, very beautiful, and she had all these ornaments around her, etc. And then the son realizes who she was. Because that was the full moon night of what we worship as the Lakshmi Puja. It's called the Kojagari Purnima, it's called in the Indian calendar, in which it is said that the Divine Mother, as Lakshmi, which was often worshipped as the goddess of wealth, goes from home to home asking, Kojagari, who is awake? Who is awake? So Kojagari is a Sanskrit term. It's actually 2 words. Kojagari, who is awake? And so whoever is awake, then the mother blesses them. That's the idea. And that's why many families in India, on that night, they don't sleep because the goddess of wealth will come. It's not just about remaining awake. Really, people are supposed to be either chanting or meditating or praying or singing. Not many people do that. They just take the first part, remaining awake. So I remember in my childhood, I remember every one of us used to go on the rooftop. There's a kind of nice little place and just spend time there. Not particularly meditating or anything, but it was fun as little children. And so Holy Mother narrates this incident, and then she says that she was actually Mother Lakshmi in that form of the little girl. And because Ramakrishna's mother said, no place at home, and then Holy Mother said, that's one of the reasons they never really became wealthy. Interestingly, the neighbor's family, Laha, where this girl went finally, they became the big landlords and they became very wealthy. So, especially on Kojagari Purnima night, if you meet some stranger who wants some help, give it. That could be Mother Lakshmi. So I mentioned this incident only to show that through these stories, either historical or mythological, this message drives down that a guest, known or unknown, with appointment or without appointment, may be divine. And that's what's called Atithi. So what these people have told this Yama is, look, here is this, and we know the background of Nachiketa. He was already filled with Shraddha. It's a remarkable little child. So you can imagine his face shining with that fervor of faith, of determination, of that faith in the power of truth, because that's what he asked his father to do. So someone as brilliant as this, standing outside for 3 days with no food. So everyone tells Yama, please, making a peace offering, bring water. Now, why water? So one of the first things that in ancient times they did when a guest came was offer water. Water for drinking will come later. First will be water to wash their feet. They didn't have shoes. It was dusty. And so it made sense. And then it was a tropical country, so it'd be warm. So, in summer, when you come home and just put some cold water and take a bath or something, you feel so refreshed. So one of the first things that they did when the guest came was offer water to wash their feet. And so that's in Sanskrit, it's called padya. So in the ritualistic worship that we do, the 10-item puja, the first item is always the padya. So worship in the Vedantic tradition is really looking upon the divine being as a guest. So when we have the worship of Ramakrishna, worship of Holy Mother, the form it takes in the ritualistic worship is seeing that the divine being is now come as a guest in my home. And just as we would honor the guest with water, in a human way, we would give them refreshments. That's what we do. We give food offering, we give them sweets, we respect them, we honor them, and so on. So, done ritually, it's called worship. Done in a non-ritualistic setting, we call it hospitality. But the idea is same, looking upon God as the divine guest. Now that's a ritual representation is done outside. But an inner way is to see welcoming the divine in my heart. Because my real home is my heart. So welcoming the divine, not just in my home, of course. And that's why one other point is, everything that we do at our home, sure, there are temples we go to. And temples are places of worship where we experience the presence of the divine. But it's possible to create our own home, our own room as a temple. So the room that you live in, the home that you live in, as much as it is possible, if you try to do everything there with the awareness that this is not just a place where I stay. This is a place where God also stays. This is a place where Mother stays. This is a place where Ramakrishna stays. If you have that attitude, in a very short time, you will find a difference. You'll find difference in the atmosphere at home. So when you are vacuuming your room or putting everything in order, don't just do it because, I just feel good when I do it. Of course you will feel good. All of us feel good when the room is in order. But also, when Mother comes in this room, she will be happy. So when you're doing some cooking, ideally, nothing that we do should be done for ourselves. It's everything that we do can be taken as an offering from the divine. So when you cook something, when you're fixing your lunch, if I can remember, I'm doing it for the Lord. I'm doing it for Ramakrishna. I'm doing it for Mother. And so mentally, what we do here, we chant Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi at our centers. But it's not just about doing it mechanically. So while I'm chanting it, can I truly in my heart feel this food that we are going to consume now, it's really for Mother's offering. I'm offering to Ramakrishna. And once it is offered to the divine, it's touched by that divine touch. That is what sanctifies the food. Then it becomes prasad. And then when I eat it, it helps me spiritually. So whether it's food, whether it's room, whether it's cleaning, whether it's whatever you do, the gardening, if you're doing gardening. So again, the garden is not just for our pleasure. You can say, well, when Ramakrishna, Holy Mother come to my home, they will move and see the garden. It will make them happy. So that's how a devotee would think. So this is the idea here. So here is this young boy waiting outside the home, and people say, worship him, welcome him, offer him water. Vaishvanaraha pravishati comes as a fire. Now fire, we know, can be wonderful if it is used well, and can be absolutely destructive. We know for cooking we need fire. Even for our daily sustenance, we need fire. In winter, we need heat. So fire is very necessary. But also we know that a fire that is not under control can totally destroy. And so when an honored, holy guest shows up at our home, if we don't take care of that guest, then a great harm can come to us. If we get great care of that guest, then great benefit can come to us. So that's why the importance of hospitality. Hospitality to everyone, because God can appear in any of the forms around us. Now what happens if we don't take care of these guests that is described in the next verse, 8th? Asha pratikshe sangatam sundritancha ishta purte putra pashunscha sarvan etad vrinte purushasyaalpamethaso yasya nashnan vasati brahmano grihe. Hopes and expectations, the fruit of good associations, the merits of sweet and beneficial speech, the sacred and the good deeds, and all his children and cattle are destroyed in the case of the foolish man in whose house a brahmana stays without meal. So asha and pratiksha. Asha is hope, and pratiksha is expectation. In his commentary, Shankara defines asha as hope for something that we don't know and that we have not experienced. And hope that would mean, therefore, the joys of heaven. So the benefits of afterlife. We have read about it, and of course, if you believe in rebirth, we have been in heaven before, we just don't remember it. But right now, we don't remember it. So we are hoping for something that's not a part of our memory right now, and it's something that we don't know. That is asha. And pratiksha means something that you are aware of and you're waiting. So one is waiting for the unknown, and the other is waiting for the known. It's like you have ordered something from Amazon. And so you know what you're expecting, but it hasn't arrived yet. So you are expecting it. I'm expecting it. You can say, well, it'll be delivered next Tuesday. I'm expecting it to. So that's how the distinction is made between hope and expectations. Then we see the next one is sangatam. So all that is of value to us, we lose it if we don't take care of guests. So sangatam means the benefit that can acquire through association with holy company. That's why holy company is so praised in the text. So those benefits will also be lost. Then sundratam. Sundratam means, again, the benefits of speaking, good speech, speaking well, treating other people well. So the benefits of that are also lost. Ishta purte, ishtam and purtam. So these are again two, this word comes very often in Vedanta text. Good deeds, and they are often called ishta and purta. Now ishta means the deeds that are the rituals mentioned in scriptures. So if we do certain kinds of worship, certain kind of things that are recommended in scriptures, that becomes ishta. And then there are other kind of actions which are good, but which are not scriptural in the sense the scriptures haven't made a specific mention of it. In other words, we could say religious good actions and secular good actions. It's a kind of a general category. For instance, now you build a park outside, and so that children can come and play. So that's a great benefit to the community. Or if there is a drought somewhere, there is a shortage of water, and you arrange for some wells to be bored and then make water available to the people. Now that's great. So that's service. So that's different from doing some scriptural worship. So those kind of good activities, either as mentioned in the Vedas or the activity that benefit the community as a general, are together called Ishtapurta. Putra Pashunscha Sarvan, then the children, the cattle, so all their possessions, external possessions and virtuous possessions of virtue that have come as a result of leading a good and honest life, all that can get destroyed if a holy person remains hungry when a holy person arrives as a guest and is not taken care of, then all the prosperity that can come is in great danger of being lost. So this is a strong encouragement for everyone that be kind, be hospitable, be welcoming. Otherwise, these are the kind of dangers that can occur. And so Yama takes it seriously. Yama welcomes this young boy and offers him water, welcomes him inside, and then this is what Yama says to propitiate him. Verse number 9. Tisro ratrir yadavatsir grihe me anashnan brahman atithir namasyah namaste stu brahman swasti me astu tasmat prati trin varan vrunishva. O Brahmana, as thou, a venerable guest, has dwelt in my house 3 nights without meal, choose therefore now 3 boons for that. Obeisance to thee, O Brahmana, and welfare be to me. So Tisro Ratri, Tisra means 3. Ratri is night. So Tisro Ratri yat avatsihi means you live, you stayed, grihe, in my home. So you have lived, you have stayed here for 3 nights, anashnan, without eating anything. Brahman atitihi namasyaha. So you are the Atithi Brahman, you stayed here without eating food for 3 nights. Namaste astu Brahman. So Yama bows down to him, offers him his salutations, and swasti me astu. So praise that as a result of my bowing down to you, may no harm come to me and my family. And to compensate, so sometimes we know if some damage is done, then compensation is offered. So here Yama makes this offer to Nachiketa. Because you stayed 3 nights without food, being a guest in my home, and I being the head of the family here, I take responsibility for this mistake, and I would like to offer you 3 boons for the 3 nights, 1 for each night. And Yama, remember, Yama is a very powerful figure. He has the power to virtually give him anything that he wants. And so it's almost like offering him 3 blank checks and saying, this is what I give you. And now, think about it this way. And it's a good question. Suppose Yama were to appear before any of us, and we are strong enough not to get terrified by Yama just showing up at our home, and Yama says, ask 3 things. What will we ask? Yeah, I mean, he's lucky. He was given 3 things. What if we were to ask, suppose someone were to say, you can ask whatever you want. What shall we ask for? And whatever it is that comes to our mind, we know that then those are the things we value in life. So if at some point we are not sure, like what's important to me in life, imagine this scenario, that someone who is capable of giving you anything comes and says, ask any 3 things. and then find out what you will ask for. And let's see what Nachiketa asks for. So his first boon that now Nachiketa is saying, this is what I would like in response to that first boon. Verse number 10. Shanta sankalpas sumana yatha syat vitamanyuhu gautamo mabhimrutyo tvat prasrishtam mabhivadet pratita etat trayanam prathamam varam vrune. O death, as the first of the three boons, I choose that Gautama, my father, be cheerful and free from anxiety, and may have his anger pacified, and that he may recognize and welcome me when I shall be sent back home by thee. Smart kid. So he's kind of already, he's actually asked quite a lot in this one thing. He just put it into one. So he's already kind of made sure that he's going back home. He's not staying there. So let's see this. O death, as the first of the three boons, etat trayanam prathamam varam. Of the three, trayanam prathamam varam. This is the first boon that I ask for. I choose. Vrine means I choose. What? Shanta sankalpa sumanaha yatha syat. May my father, Gautama, be Shanta Sankalpaha, means may be free from anxiety. Clearly, having sent his son to death, his father must be anxious. And so the first thing that this very dutiful, obedient son wants is, my father should be free from anxiety. Sumanaha, and be very cheerful again. The father was upset and angry at the same time. First of all, he was angry that his son was being so audacious enough to point out his mistake. So he was angry, but also then extremely upset and anxious because in his anger he had said something and had sent his son away. So the son now wants sumanaha. Mana is mind. Sumanaha, mind in a good mood, cheerful mood. That's what he wants his father to be. Yatha pratitaha tvat prasrushtam. Tvat means by you, prasrushtam, by having sent by you, may my father recognize me. Yatha pratita, just as it's a little bit like this. When someone is dead and then they show up at your doorstep, it's scary. It's like, ooh, what is this? Some people might think it's some kind of a dead spirit or a ghost has come. It can be scary to family members. If you have just finished someone's cremation and they suddenly knock at the door and they show up. And so what this son is saying is, well, now remember, I'm returning from the home of death. So when I go back, not just that my father will recognize me, of course, if I have the same appearance, my father will recognize me, but recognize me not as if I'm some ghostly apparition that has come, that I am his son. So without any of that other feeling of someone returning from. So this is not nearly near-death experience. It's really post-death experience. It's not just like it's gone just near death. It's actually gone there. And so therefore he says, may my father recognize me. And this, he says, should be the first boon. Yama is very happy to hear. And it's also very good to see that the first thing that this boy asks is nothing for himself. It just shows his father apparently has treated him unfairly, according to some people might interpret it that way. So although his father was angry at him, he is not angry at his father. In fact, he was concerned about what his father was doing. And so such a precious blank check that he was given, the first thing he says is, may my father be free from anxiety. May he be cheerful. That's amazing. Amazing for a little boy, not asking for candy, not asking for anything, just saying, may my father be free from anxiety. And so Yama is very happy to hear that. And this is what Yama replies. Yatha purastat bhavita pratita audalakir arunirmat prasrishtah sukham ratri shaita vitamanyuh tvam dadrishivan mrityu mukhat pramuktam. By my command, Audalaki Aruni, that is your father, will recognize you and be again toward thee even as he was before. Having seen thee released from the jaws of death, he shall be free from anger and sleep peacefully in the nights. So, Yama grants that request from Nachiketa fully. How do we understand this father as Audalaki Aruni? His father seems to have a lot of names. So in the earlier verse, when Nachiketa speaks, he refers to his father as Gautama. And now here, of course, Audalaki Aruni, as we saw last time, that in Sanskrit, by grammatical rules, sometimes the name of the son can be derived from their parents. And so Audalaki can mean son of Uddalaka. And Aruni means the son of Aruna. So either his father had two names, a nickname maybe, Uddalaka and Aruna, or there is another one tradition they had in ancient times was if someone didn't have any children, then they adopted a child. But it was not, normally when we think about adoption, the biological father loses right over the child. So there was this Vedic system where you could share a child if you like. In other words, so here is this one person who has a son, and there's another family who don't have a child. Now, a child was necessary in the Vedic period because a lot of the rituals after the parents die are done by the children. Now, if there is no child in the family, then who is going to do the rituals after the death of the father and mother? And so what they often did was they adopted someone. Now, some of the adoptions could be the way we understand it today. Someone just became a part of their family. They were adopted ritually and whatever legal system they may have had, but there was also possible to do it in a scriptural sanction. But there was also this other provision that they could say, I adopt you as my son, so this person now technically has a biological father and adopted father. And this son, according to the Vedic custom, was eligible to do the final rites of both these, the biological parent and the adopted parent. So that is another possibility. From the text itself, it's not clear whether it was that arrangement or what. We saw in the first verse, his father was also referred to as Vajasravasa. Now that, the commentators say, could also mean that his gotra, the family lineage, was traced back to the rishi by that name. So again, the text itself is not helpful. So these are some of the possibilities that the commentators mention when we read these different names. And that's the interesting thing about Vedas, is that you have these names, but we know very little about them. And that's the impersonal nature of this Vedic teaching. The focus was always on the teaching, not so much on who was giving the teaching. If you want kind of details about the personalities, then you have to go to history and to some later texts. But the Vedas, the focus was only on the deepest truths and the deepest philosophy. So Yama grants the first request of Nachiketa fully. So that's where we'll stop today with verse 11. If you have any thoughts, ideas, comments, questions, feel free to ask.
Swamiji, many of us, when you think of atithis, many of us may not have homes large enough that atithis will come, or just in modern age it doesn't happen much. But there must be occasions in our daily life when we could be more hospitable. Are there some examples of more reception we can give to people?
Well, I think we can only do what is possible. Every one of us have to live within our means. Every family has a certain budget. They have to live within their means. So if a guest shows up, we can do the best we can, best way we can welcome them. It's not possible for everyone to say, oh, come home and here is a room waiting for you. That may not be possible. But we all have to do the best we can. That's the idea.
Maharaj, when Nachiketa came to Yama's house, you said that, she recognized as a Brahmana. His character was... So what is the character that anyone can recognize as a Brahmana? Because his father is a Brahmana too, but his character is totally opposite of a so-called character of Brahmana. So that I could not understand that how it happened.
Yeah, so just to put it in a context, his father was not an evil man. He was not perfect by any means. But we shouldn't kind of come away with the idea that his father was bad and the son was good. It is never like that. So yes, his father had a lot of good qualities. Of course, he wasn't perfect, as we saw that he wasn't doing the ritual properly. So it's more a question difference in degree. So just because someone is born in a Brahmin family doesn't automatically imply that they have all the qualities associated with that Brahminhood. Also, just because someone is not born in a Brahmin family does not mean that they cannot have those qualities either. So that is why being part of a social system as a result of a caste that is inherited by birth and a caste that is inherited by qualities are two different things. And they don't always necessarily match. We have several examples, both in history as even in contemporary times, although the caste system as it was held there is no longer really prevalent. Much of that is available now is actually a distortion of what the original caste system was designed to be, because the changes that have occurred in society have not had these corresponding changes in the social structure. That's why if someone tries to apply the caste system of several centuries ago to the 21st century, it always becomes a very partial application, and a partial application is what makes it distorted. And it's a big subject. All that I'll just want to make only one point, and that the caste system, as we find in the Vedas, the central point of that system, it was a social system, the central point was a sense of duty. Dharma, the word dharma means duty. What is Brahmana dharma? What is the Kshatriya dharma? And so on. The emphasis today in societies all over the world has actually completely changed. The emphasis now is on rights. So everybody speaks about what is my right. We have a bill of rights. We don't have a bill of duties. And what's often forgotten is that rights and duties go together. While people demand rights, nobody really asks like, well, what are my corresponding duties? And so that's the one of the major problems connected with it. In fact, the Pandit under whom I studied Vedanta, he was a very orthodox Brahmin, and he used to say that if people today really know, or make an effort to know what it needs to be a Brahmin, if you want to be a true Brahmin, nobody would want to be a Brahmin. because it's a life of extreme austerity, extreme sacrifice, and nobody would want to be it. So what everybody is looking at is just the privileges that come associated with certain things. And so that's the whole system has already gotten totally distorted. That's the reason. Yeah.
Swamiji, it's an observation. I think you said last time the Upanishads are basically to tell something more important. So here I believe the story itself is very short. They have skipped some of the logical things like how can he go to death, like, and how much time it takes to go and come back. Or even it says that Yama is giving the boons because he gets welfare. I don't know what kind of welfare Yama can get from giving the boons. So I feel that it is more about just skip the story and come back to the...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the story is just kind of creating a setting. But there is a lot we can learn. How we should treat a guest. What are the duties of children towards their parents. Although obviously that's not the central teaching. So this is just a prologue to the story. Yeah.
Without being political, I'm talking about Europe at the moment, and you've got all these refugees that are coming to the country, and they are guests, as you likely say.
Mm-hmm.
How should the sort of be in a real world be able to help? And as an ordinary person, you feel sorry for these people, but you can't do anything personally. And as a nation, I mean, how do you think? Is there any way to address that, or just a kind of like thinking from this example of treating a guest as a god?
Yeah. Well, like the things to do as an individual, it is much easier because you're just one person. Then whatever way your mind thinks and whatever way it is possible for you to do, in some ways it is easier. But there is so little we can do as an individual. On the other hand, when you're thinking about like this mass migrations and immigration problem, etc., the people who can take decisions, usually, I mean, if it's just one dictator, maybe then that person probably can decide the fate of people. But if it's a collective leadership, as democracies at least theoretically are, then there are a bunch of people, not everyone thinks in the same way. And then there are all these other, lots of competing agendas that work. So we can just hope that the majority will do what is right. Sometimes they do, oftentimes they don't. So there is really no perfect system of collective administration. There is no. In fact, there is no perfect system in this world. This world is an imperfect world. Swami Vivekananda, as a teenager, said, I could have created a better world. Typical of teenagers to make such bold claims. But it's true. This world is not perfect. We can ask why it's not perfect. You want to ask that? If nobody wants to ask that, I don't have to answer it. And the answer is really we don't know. That's the honest answer. It's a little bit like when I go to sleep and I see something in my dream and say, why is it like that? There isn't really any, nobody asked us. You see, nobody really gave us any choice. So when you're watching a dream, the only option you have is just wake up and stop seeing the dream. There is nothing, you can't change your dream. You can, well, in your dream, if you see yourself and you see someone who is hungry, you can feed that person and get some, but that person is going to be hungry again after 6 hours or 8 hours. And then you suddenly have 100 people who are hungry, and then you again try to help them. So all this stuff will be going on, but I don't see that there is any perfect solution which will resolve the problem forever. And therefore the philosophical approach to this is, as long as there is multiplicity, there will be wonderful things around, there will be also terrible things around. There will be love, there will also be hatred. There will be light, there will also be darkness. That's just the way, that's the basic DNA of the world. And you can't change that. You can try to minimize the polarity, the gap between the haves and the have-nots. But it's never in history do we read at any point that everything was equal, everyone was happy. It's never happened that way. And so I'm skeptical whether it would ever happen. But it's a good motivation power to say, let me do this so that everyone will be happy. It can provide a good motivation. I'm sorry to be a little bit not very positive in this thing. Swami Vivekananda once said that we should help the world, of course, as much as it is possible for us to do. Even though the help that we give will be limited, even though the effect will be temporary, no matter what we do, we are never going to be able to solve all the problems forever. We should still do it. The choice we have is this. Whatever good that I do, I can either do it with a right attitude towards it or a wrong attitude towards it. A wrong attitude would mean all my good actions, if it boosts my ego, makes me more vain, makes me more proud, I still may be doing a lot of good. There are a lot of selfish, egoistic people feeding the hungry, doing a lot of good. So you can still do good, but it may not do so much good to the person who is doing that good. That person is going to suffer as a result of that pride and all the negativities. On the other hand, if I continue to do the same thing, but with a selfless attitude, without any selfish interest, in the spirit of karma yoga. So what I do may be exactly what a selfish, egoistic person does, but I do it with a different frame of mind. Then, actually it's a win-win situation. I'm doing some good to the world, but also I'm doing good to myself, because my unselfish action will purify my heart, will bring clarity to my mind. With a clear mind, I will be able to even help better and more other people. And in some sense, although this is not what we should be thinking about it, but then it won't be karma yoga, while practicing karma yoga, we are really doing more good to ourselves than the others. Although if that's what your motivation is, then it's not karma yoga. That's the thing. So again, as I said, if you feed the hungry, you've done some good. You have reduced the problem of hunger in one person for the next 8 hours. That's some good. Not permanent, but some good. But if I've done it in the proper way, then that amount of clarity I will get, the amount of purity my heart will get, that purity is not only for 8 hours or 10 hours. That's mine. So you're doing a temporary benefit to the world and a permanent benefit to yourself. But you shouldn't be thinking about it. If you're thinking about it, then you don't get it. So that the calculation about what I'm going to get out of it, when that's absent, the I gets maximum out of it. So that's the trick. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, so we'll stop here today. And when we meet next week, we'll begin with verse number 12, when Nachiketa will ask his second boon. Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. On Sunday, we will have Antar Yoga, as always, with prayer, music, reading from spiritual texts, and then soup for everyone, and the birthday celebration of everyone born in the month of September. So all of you are welcome. Next Wednesday, we'll continue with the study of the Upanishad, and on Tuesday and Saturday, our Aarti and meditation will also continue as usual. Let's conclude with a prayer now. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May we learn to see God in our own hearts and in everyone around us. May God bless us all and fill our hearts with gratitude, grace, and love. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.